All right. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar on lab maps, floor plans, and remote access in Sassafras All-Site and Lab Site. So looking at this lab maps tab, first of all, you'll notice there is a geographic map with some pins on it. This geographic map is based out of OpenStreetMap. That's the default. There is a place in settings that you can go to if you have a Google API key and you'd rather use Google Maps. Google is paid, that's why it's not the default version. So we use the OpenStreetMaps as the default. And then secondly, you'll notice that there are two things at the top, actually three things at the top, but we won't talk too much about this filter. It doesn't apply too much for maps. But the software, if you perform a software search up top here, once the maps are built, of course, our product is monitoring for installed software and normalizing that into installed software lists. So one thing you can do once these maps are complete is do a software search, and the system's going to show you where the software you're searching for is located, which labs have currently available copies. So these numbers represent how many computers in that room that are currently not in use have that software. And if we click to go in, we'll see it's going to highlight the computers that have it. And then the last thing I'm going to point your attention to here quickly is that there's different tabs on this page. The main tab is what you'll start with. And when you come to this page for the first time, you'll probably just see the list view, which is going to look like this. You can use this page and even publish it to end users without the geographic map. So just sticking with this list view if you want. And a lot of times that's a quick way to just get this out and published and available to end users. With the map there, of course, we're seeing the pins or the locations of the different labs. It will either have an R or a C on it if it's currently not available, meaning closed or reserved. And then the number represents how many computers in each room are currently available if the lab is open. Then you can have multiple tabs at the top for different campuses, or in this case, we've got one for virtual labs that's just using the list view, or you could do a department level, however you'd like to use tabs. You can have as many of the maps as you'd like. And then the last thing I want to mention on this particular area is that these tabs can either be based on divisions, which if we come to the computers window, you probably have seen this, or in Key Configure have seen the computers window, and you've got your divisions off to the left side. So this is the standard way. These divisions are going to be your standard approach to dividing your computers into groups that are going to be available as divisions to place on the map. So the other approach is to use what we call valued tags. I'm not going to go deep into that right now just because it is quite rare. But the idea is if you need to create computer groups for whatever reason that aren't division based, you can apply value tags to the computers that are part of the different groups, and then you can build a map based on those tags. So this virtual labs tab, for example, is based on valued tags. If I go into settings, you see it's a value tag based map, and each of these computer groups are computers that have a certain tag on them, as opposed to, if I go to categorization here, you'll see it's got this virtual labs computer list 4. I won't go any further than that, but basically you can create arbitrary or otherwise selected computer groups that are not based on divisions, and then build out maps or floor plans based on those. So that's probably all with regards to the maps at the moment. If we open this up, when you first hit this page, if you haven't built maps before, you're going to see it's going to look something like this, but instead of seeing all these icons, you're just going to see a plus icon. I'm going to go ahead and add a new tab here, and we'll step through that process. So I'll add a tab. I'm not going to make it visible to public viewers yet, but I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And on this new tab, you see none of these divisions have that list of icons. The first step in this process is to decide which divisions you want to create floor plans for and add to your map. And you do that just by clicking the plus button, and then you can click add. If you need to change the name, the display name of the division, because for whatever reason your divisions are not what you want students or end users to see, you can change the name here. You can give it a description, and then I'll talk about hiding what hide prefix means in a bit. But if I click to add this, basically what I've said to the system is, when I'm ready to publish it, this is one of the divisions that I want to include for guest users or end users to see. And so if I come back to the main campus here and we look at one with a description, I can click on one of these labs and you'll see this is where the description goes. So you can provide a comment or description of the room. You can, I think, embed images into these descriptions as well, maybe what the room looks like from the door, a picture of that sort of thing. And you see it also shows the hours and the number of available computers. And then if I were to click get directions here on the phone, it would actually open up the Google Maps app. In this case, it would be Google Maps, and give you walking directions from your current location to that lab. So they're pretty helpful. After I add a division to this tab, if I want to create that geographic map, the next step, of course, is to click this map icon with the plus. That's going to bring up this map. You can try clicking up top here if location services are turned on your computer and the browser has access. It may get you pretty close to where you're trying to zoom into, but sometimes that doesn't work, especially if you're working on the server itself. So in this case, I'm going to zoom in from here on our office location in Hanover. So it's not too difficult. The trick is, if you click down, you want to drag, because when I click without dragging, wherever I click is where it's going to place that pin. So for the first pin, it's usually the hardest one to place, because you're zooming in from far away, and you've got to drag around a bit before you're ready to actually click to identify the location. And in this case, our office is in this building here. So I'll just click and place that pin right there. So that's the idea for the first map. And now if I refresh the page, you'll see it's going to center on the pin I already placed. So after that first pin, it's much easier. This button is the one that will allow you to toggle between the list with the map and then the full screen map view. And then you would just do the same for the other locations that you plan to add to the map. Pretty simple to build out these geographic maps if you need them. And again, when I'm ready, there's two places I'm going to need to turn on visibility to public end users. One is for the map itself, for this tab. I'm going to turn that on here, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then the second place will be when I'm ready to publish the floor plans for each of these divisions. I'll click this button to check that box. And then if I were to log out and view this as a guest viewer, it would present this map the way I see it here, but to the guest account. So next step would be to build out a floor plan. We're going to cover a lot here. We're going to talk about settings. We're talking about the schedule, but generally the next step that you're going to take is to fill out or to build out a floor plan. So I'm going to click this button to edit the floor plan. And you can see we can put the specific dimensions of the room in here. Generally, I just click done, and I'll show you how to drag to expand the size. If you've got a background image from another program, a JPEG file or another image file that you wanted to drag and use as your floor plan, you can browse and do that here. There is also a place in settings where you can do this. So if you bypass this by clicking done, you can always add it later. But the trick here is you're going to use this bracket at the bottom to get the general floor shape. You can see up here is a tape measure. So you can be as precise and specific as you need to be. If you know the exact dimensions, you might as well. Otherwise, for the most part, a general shape is all you're really looking for. And then once the floor plan is there, or the bracket has been moved to give you the full dimensions of the room, this is where you're going to use this tool to draw the walls. And if you can do one line, it works pretty well. But you can hit the escape button to escape this and create the first object, and then come back afterwards and build a second one. So I've messed up a little bit there, so I'll show you what that looks like. If I finish up here and then hit escape, make this a little bit bigger. I could shrink this down a little and drag it over, or make the room a little bit bigger. So obviously, like any other program, you're gonna have a little bit of tweaking time from time to time, but there's a general shape of a room. If I wanted to leave windows, or if there were multiple doors, again, you can escape with your escape key and then just pick up where you left off and draw another wall object. So sometimes you might have multiple, maybe a wall within the room that would need to come out, something like that. So that's the tool you would use for drawing the walls. And then the thing that makes this so dynamic and quick and easy to use these days is the object library here. So we have built in various icons and other desk objects. You have the ability to create your own. I'll show you in a second. But as we scroll through here, you see you can add your own logo in settings. And then there's QR codes, which I'll go ahead and drop one now. After we publish this, you'll be able to pull this up on your phone. But we'll add a desk object, and I'll show you how quick it is. In the earlier versions of these lab maps tools, we didn't have the ability to kind of have these built-in objects that you could drop and then manipulate after the fact. So if you needed a desk, you would draw it, and then if you needed another one, you'd have to draw it again. But now we've got these objects that you can copy paste, and when you move a pasted object, it remembers the relationship between it and the original. So you paste again, and it will quickly build out a row. And you can do the same thing with a whole row. Those are properly aligned. Then when I paste that, they're all stay properly aligned. So building these out is actually really pretty quick these days. As long as you know the general shape of the room and how many desks there are and where they're located, you can put these together very quickly. So I've laid these desks out. You see they've got the green dots on them. That's the snap point where the computers are going to go. And if I just fill this up fairly quickly, it looks like I dropped a printer onto a desk. I'll fix that. So just to show you how quickly, assuming all of your computers lined up exactly how they needed to, then this would be a pretty quick process. But that's not always going to happen. That's very rarely going to happen quite so easily. But we'll just, for the sake of this demonstration, fill that room up very quickly. Another important thing to know is that there are multiple save states. If back on that maps page where the geographic map was, and there was a list view of those divisions, if I had decided to publish this, what I would have been publishing would be the list view of the computers without any floor plan. What you can see here is that there is a saved draft here. So this draft has been saved. If I were to log out and come back in, the guest user would still see the published list view of the computers, but this map that I've started working on would be saved as a draft. This will not become the official published version until I click publish. And so that's kind of the third save state there, the second save state there. And now that that's been published, if I leave edit mode, you'll see what this room looks like with the completed finished map. So the computers I didn't place and the printers I didn't place are listed down in the bottom by default. We see the legend is down here at the bottom by default, and the QR code that we placed is there. That QR code represents the URL for this specific map location. So that is the QR code. Just to give you an idea of what these are really for. For a small classroom like this with a few desks, you don't really need that. But if you're publishing a large room the first floor of a library or a tech center. You might have 100 or more computers in a large space. And the original request for this QR code was someone who said they wanted to put the floor plan itself on electronic signage outside the door of the library or outside of each of the doors of the library. So the idea was a student could walk up, look and see how busy the library was, scan the QR code to pull that map up on their phone, and then they've got it with them as they walk around the first floor of the library to find the computer they're looking for. So that's the idea behind that. And if we go back out to the map, that reminds me of one other thing I wanted to mention here. So typically you're going to, let me go back to my sample here. Typically what you're going to do is add using this button here for your divisions. But we do have the ability to create nested divisions. So to come back to the computers page, on this particular key server, there aren't many nested divisions. I think there are a couple actually. Johnson.1 is a nested division, for example. Rasa other kiosks and miscellaneous here are nested divisions. The Rasa other is the top level. This is displaying without the nested view. But if we come back out to maps, what you'll see is in this list view, you don't get I guess in this case, here, let's go down to the Rasa. Here we go. So what you get is the bottom level options, the Rasa, grad, kiosk, miscellaneous. But what if you wanted one map that includes all three of these groups instead of just three separate maps? So up at the very top, this plus icon is going to allow us, if we come down here and open that up, to select this asterisk at the top. And if we do that, basically what we're doing is adding the top level here that has 21 computers in it as a map or as a floor plan that I could then go into. And now I've got all the computers from those three divisions in one list. So I could build a floor plan for a large area that includes multiple subdivisions. And in addition to that, have a separate floor plan for each of those individual divisions. So that's the idea there. This plus button up at the top is what allows you to select that asterisk to do the top level for those nested. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to just use the plus icon to add it at the division level, or the subdivision level. So the last thing I want to show you, just coming back into the floor plan, is the drawing tools. So if you go through this object library and you don't find what you need, what's great about the mapping functionality here is we've got the snap points here that you can place, but also in this toolbox is a list of objects that you're able to place onto the map. So in this case, I'm going to just try to make this look similar to our built-in items. We'll just grab that, and let's see, it might be that one. And if I go to this shape, drag it there, and then from here, if I wanted to, let's say, place chairs on or around it, I could grab those from the object library. I'll place one here, for example, and then right-clicking on these brings up these options. And one is to move to the front, bring to front. So that allows me kind of to place chairs or multiple chairs around this desk, and then I can bring in the snap points. And now I've got a bunch of different separate objects that are all on top of each other. But if I select them all, just dragging with the mouse and right-click, I can group them. Now that I've got this as a single object, rather than resizing it, I'm going to right-click and click here to add to the object library. So I'll just call this new desk. And then when I add this to the object library, it will now show up here alphabetically listed with the rest of the objects. So I can use this in multiple locations. So that's the basic idea for the drawing tools. So those are the drawing tools. You see, you can manage fill and stroke and the line thickness. And then there's some other drawing tools as well, shapes and arcs that you can use to build your objects. Texts can be pretty helpful as well. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use text that, actually, let's get rid of the stroke and make the fill dark. And what's cool is this text, I've seen people use this for all kinds of uses. I pointed out because sometimes we get calls, how can I provide this piece of information on the map that's not part of the tool set? And maybe that's computer names or other requests that come in, software lists and things that might be useful. Which computers are set up for accessibility, although we do have an icon for that. Various things you might need text for, you can add and manipulate text there. So I'll go ahead and publish this again, and then go into the options. Well, a couple of other things. So this icon here is going to show the computer name, but you can see they often will overlap. You've got to hover over and it will bring it to the front. So that's why some people will use text there. And I mentioned at the map option level, there was this option to hide prefix. What this does, if you type in, let's just look and see what we get. AARAE is the prefix for most of the computers in this room, AARAE. So if I go in here and type AARAE as my prefix and click OK, now when I click on these computers, it's just showing me the number and hiding that prefix. And then if we go to the options, I'll just walk through quickly what each of these is. We talked about visible to public viewers. This is the floor plan level. And this is what makes it published on the map for users to log in and see the floor plan. I haven't shown you the heat map yet. That's outside of edit mode. So we'll step back and I'll show you what that looks like. You can set that so that only administrators have access to it or end users as well. Suppress availability for safety is there to prevent targeting of users when a room only has 1 or 2 people in it. Basically, if there's fewer than 5 users in a room and you turn this on, the room is always going to appear as if it's empty or no one's there. None of the computers are in use. And based on idle sessions is what you're going to use if you're building a lab in an area where all the computers are always logged in with a generic login. Instead of being able to tell availability, red, blue, or green, based on whether someone's logged in, you would turn this on if you want to base that color of the icon on whether the computer is in an idle state or not. And that idle state by default is 15 minutes, but you can change that number in the settings. Use distinct icon for off computers and show remote links for off computers are kind of special case. In some labs where you've got virtual machines that are actually on and ready to use will show up blue because it's a VM. And with that turned on, basically any computer that would otherwise be blue will show up green as available. Not typically needed. And then related to that is this show remote links for off computers. For our remote access functionality, which I'll talk about more here in a minute, this is going to do the same. If I have that turned on, remote access is on. When I click on a available computer when I'm not in edit mode, it will give me the link to connect to that computer remotely, even though it's considered off. So that's what those are for. And then show path up here, again, when you're out of edit mode, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and exit edit mode so I can show you. So this is the path it's talking about, where I can go back to the map or select another division to look at. Show path on means that's visible. And then the forecast and the map are for actually on this info tab. So here's the demand forecast where you can look at each day and look at when busy times tend to be. And then this is a map. Again, if you're looking at this on your phone, this gives you a quick and easy way to get directions to that location on your phone. The one thing you'll notice right here, there's 4 tabs, it ends with options. When I'm in edit mode, this is edit mode for the list or for the info tab. So let me go back to the floor plan and go into edit mode. And if I go into edit mode here and then into options, there's 5 tabs and layout is the last one. So you've got to be in the floor layout settings or edit mode in order to see the layout settings. So this is that other location you can drag and drop your floor plan file if you've got an image. And then otherwise, you set the computer icon size, the background color for the floor, and then there are the options for showing the unplaced computers down at the bottom, showing the legend, and making the map resize to fit the browser window. So that's the idea for those settings. What do you do if you've got 10 classrooms that are all identical layout? So the old approach to solving that problem was to build the floor plan once and then to group all the objects together and add a collection or a group object like this to the object library. You can do that; it works just fine. Allows you to do that, but it's harder to edit it or make minor changes. Whereas if you use this button to copy the map, this allows you to actually take the entire floor plan and copy it over to another division. And then the other thing you might have noticed when we were back on the maps here is that there's a couple of printers here in this one. These are actually coming from our PaperCut integration. In the object library, you can just drop a printer icon on any desk or location on the map. But these, if we go into settings and then to the printers tab here, this is where you set up the PaperCut integration. And that just pulls all the computer records in from PaperCut and maintains a live status, relatively live status. I think the default is every 5 minutes. When those servers have been changed, I think it's every 5 minutes. It will reach out to PaperCut and query a status for the printers. So that actually lets your end users see on the map, is a computer available? Is it in an okay state? Is there a paper jam or other issue? What's the cost to print? Any descriptions or other explanations that you want to provide, you can add and drop those right on the maps as well. PaperCut is one way to get the printers in. A CSV import, if you've got a spreadsheet of your printers with the IP addresses, that's sufficient to get some status information as well. You would import those through key configure into the printers table. That would generate and build out your printers list here, and then from there it will use the IPP protocol to reach out and communicate with the printers directly to pull some status information, and otherwise it would function exactly the same way. Once the printers are here, they're available after you drag them into their divisions to place on the lab maps. Grab a couple things here and then we'll move on. The heat map I mentioned, we grab that, we can see the computers that have the most usage in the last 24 hours, the past week, or the past month. This is actually really helpful for the administrators because especially when it comes time to do a hardware refresh, this allows you to get an idea of usage patterns within a room. You can see, are people gravitating toward the computers with dual screens, or the ones by the window, or the ones where the professor, they're turned in such a way where the professor can't see the monitor. And that can help you both with decisions about what to buy in your refresh, but also in layout decisions if you need to reorganize that room for better, more efficient use. So I think that covers everything for the floor plans, and we talked a bit about the maps. I'm gonna step out here back to the maps tab and talk about these other buttons here, at least this one other button, which is the open hours. So each of these rooms is going to have the ability to create a schedule for it. This one already has open hours because this, we come out one more time, this tab, this main campus has been around and the hours have been set for these labs here already. So when I create a new tab, it's just going to pick up the schedule because that schedule applies at that division level. So if I go into these, they already have their pre-configured schedules. But if we go in, I'll show you what this looks like. Under information, we see this time set is named after the division. So that's all that really makes it link up with the division, is that they share the identical name. Time periods, you can add as many of these as you need. If I go up top right and click the edit mode, it allows me to edit this one, or I can add another one. So let's say maybe this room also has weekend hours from 8 a.m. to, let's say, so I can create open hours, and then I can also create specific closed hours if needed, or reservations. So this reserved for actually allows you to tie in to Active Directory. And if this name that it's reserved for is also the name of an AD group, then this will restrict access to this, not only the lab computers where you can click on them and see what's installed and sort of get an idea of what's going on in that room, but also for the remote access links, which we'll talk about next. So that's the idea behind the time sets. Pretty straightforward to build these for the most part. We do also have the ability to import these. We have a spreadsheet that you can get from us, and if you populate that spreadsheet with your lab hours, it's pretty easy to import. Getting the spreadsheet filled out is the hardest part, but once you've got that, it's a pretty easy import to get the division schedule imported. The software page is intended to function as a kind of a campus-wide software directory. So right now I've got Adams Lab 1 selected. So these are the products that are available in Adams Lab 1. And if I click to find a product, it's going to highlight the computers in that room that have it. If I back out and get rid of that selection or that scope, now we're looking at all of the computers across all of the software available across campus. And if I click on one, it's going to take me to the map and show me how many copies are available in each room. Last thing before we go a little bit into remote access, I just wanted to discuss embedding. I mentioned it before, but you can embed at any level. So at this map level, I could do an embed. At the floor plan level, if I click to go in to the floor plan view, I can embed at the floor plan level. Looks like that's the one I didn't create floor plan for. So if I wanted to embed the floor plan on another site, I could, with or without the navigation. So just as a quick example, if I come up here and type frame-4 and reload that page, it's going to take me to that map without any of the navigation. I can still look at the heat map, I can still run reports, and because I'm logged in this case, I can go into settings and edit mode. But this is a simple embed that will allow you to place these floor plans on the individual pages for maybe pre-existing pages that you already have for the various labs. And you can also do this with the map itself. So it's fairly common that users will set up electronic signage that displays the map in a common area of some kind. So students can come in and sort of look at overall which labs are busy, which ones have a lot of free space, what software is installed, kind of get an idea. What's cool is when you do the embed, there's one thing I want to show you. Because you're not getting the navigation, you don't get that search bar at the top for software, but you can always click on the computers individually and see what software is installed on them if they have audit data. And there's this magnifying glass that's here instead of the search bar, which shows you all of the available products. And then if you click one, it will highlight the computers that have it. So that's an alternative for embedding to get your software list. Okay. So now let's have a quick look at remote access and talk about what that's about. Really, the use case is very different from the lab maps and floor plans for the most part. You're using remote access generally when a lab is closed for some reason, or maybe hybrid. A hybrid environment was fairly common early on with COVID. But if I go to this floor plan, and then I go into the settings and look at the remote, you see on a lab by lab basis, and then within each lab on a platform by platform basis, you can determine what kind of remote access link is going to apply. RDP link for Windows, and click OK. Let me refresh the page since I made those changes. And now, as an administrator, I see an IP address. As an end user, I would just see the word connect. And if I click this, it wants me to download an RDP file. Assuming there's no firewall or other security that's blocking this, and assuming this was a real computer, as opposed to a demo simulated computer, that's all that would be necessary for me to establish a link and connect to this computer remotely. Now, I'm working on a Mac, and obviously I would need to have a RDP client installed to allow me to establish that connection and control that computer on this Mac. But another option here is the RDP broker option. And this applies or ties to a third-party open source tool called Guacamole that you might have interest in. And because what this does is it allows you to have sort of a broker server you control sitting on campus where that RDP connection is happening. And then the end user generally is going to authenticate into this web UI using some kind of SSO integration or Active Directory. And then when they remote into that lab computer, they're doing it entirely through the web browser. So that's probably been the most popular way for this. There is a fair amount of additional setup getting that Guacamole server up and running. But once it's done, it's a much more secure and user-friendly approach to providing remote access. You see there's a bunch of other options here. I won't go into detail about all of this. There's many, many ways to configure these and set up remote access. So if you have a need or interest in doing that, that's another one where I would just say to reach out to us separately. And then a couple of other things. I mentioned very briefly there the AD integration as well as the SSO authentication. Right now we've got AzureAD, Google, and Okta. We have a SAML module coming in the 7.9 release. And then of course we can do the standard on-prem Active Directory for authentication as well. So I hope this has been interesting and helpful. As always, most of the time when we do any kind of introduction of features like this, it answers a few questions and then you have a lot more, especially when you start to dig in and actually implement some of this. So our goal tonight was just to make you feel comfortable enough to jump in, click around, start this process. As questions arise, as always, drop us an email, give us a call. Always happy to point you to documentation, hop on a call with you, or schedule something for a longer hands-on session for configuration assistance or training. So you always feel free to reach out to us for assistance as you move forward. And I wish everybody luck and appreciate your time and attention.